Welcome, everybody, into the TacBox Podcast. I am your host, Tyson. I got my co-host, Dale, over here, and today we have a special guest on this episode of the TacBox Podcast, and I posted it on Facebook, and everybody was going kind of crazy. Super excited for this one. It's the can't-miss episode of 2025.
Can't miss it.
Can't miss it, right, Dale?
Can't.
So we got Matt Hoagland joining us on this episode today. Maybe
I look like I'm in a TacBox.
He's in the TacBox. See, look at that.
He is live from the TacBox.
That is promotion right there.
You're all in.
Well, you got to go where the Wi-Fi is, and it was in the garage today.
Hey,
so coming to you from where Elon Musk can barely get Wi-Fi, right? In the garage of somewhere in Illinois.
Somewhere in Illinois, yeah, an undisclosed location.
There we go. So we have people asked a lot of questions throughout this week because they wanted to know questions from you. So we got some questions lined up for Matt here. So before we get into the questions, everybody make sure that you, if you're on YouTube, you should be on YouTube because you got to see Matt, make sure you subscribe to the channel,
there.
give it a thumbs up. You want to see what's going on here. If you're not on YouTube, think about joining YouTube because that's the platform everybody's on. So we really appreciate you joining us, Matt. And to start off, if you could just tell us a little bit about you, how you, we know you're a handler, right? So maybe, what you do for a full-time gig, if that isn't your full-time gig, and what got you into handling. Just a little bit background on you.
Okay. I didn't grow up in a dog family. We had a dog, but I loved dogs as a kid. I bought the Dog World magazine every time the week it came out. I was at the magazine store, and we convinced our parents to buy a dog here and there. And I worked at a vet clinic when I was 15, saved money, bought a dog from an ad in Dog World. Went off to college. When I graduated, got a degree in ornamental horticulture from the University of Illinois. Took a job that summer in '90. At the Chicago Botanic Garden, and was living in an apartment 2 blocks off the lake on Northwestern University campus. Nice gig if you can get it. Saw in my Dog World magazine, still getting it at 23, or 22, saw that there was a dog show an hour away, so I drove down there. It was at Triton College, an outdoor show like they were in the 90s, just under tents, no power, no vans with generators, air conditioners, just people around tents, dealing with the elements. Brought my Nikon 35 millimeter camera with film, not digital, and was taking pictures, and handler noticed I was taking pictures of his dog and befriended me, said I should come to the show the next day, which was a different location because back in the 90s, the shows traveled. You went to a show one place on Saturday and one place on Sunday, and you were lucky if they weren't an hour or so away.
All true.
But that also meant hotels were different, and you had to take down your whole setup on Saturday and move it Sunday. That's how every weekend was. You were lucky if there was a cluster. So anyway, he convinced me to come the next weekend to another show, and then he convinced me to come the next weekend. So all of a sudden I was going every weekend, which I worked at the Botanic Garden, so I had weekends off. And after that kind of ran its course, and I traveled with a Sheltie handler who introduced me to someone that had Lhasas. They also had Poms, which was the first dog I finished completely, a little black and tan Pom. She was awful, but she was a little showboat, and she was black and tan at a time when no one had black and tans. So she won with 4 majors back in '92. Started with a Lhasa, met a poodle handler, traveled with him. His client gave me a miniature poodle, which 30 years later I'm still breeding and showing miniature poodles, and that's probably what my breed is, although everyone thinks I breed Chin, and I don't. Fast forward, I showed a lot of toy poodles for Rick Wilson, who also had Chin with Dale. I don't know how many people know Rick. At one point, he still is in Chin through Dale and everything. Dale came to a show in Illinois, kind of spying on Rick for me, but he came and went best in show with the Chin at a local show, set up with me because he was there, went best in show with the dog named Gentleman Caller. And so I kind of met his client then, Vicky DeValos. Even though I knew of her at shows, I'd never met her. Fast forward to Ileana.
I retired from handling.
Yeah. Fast forward a couple months later, Dale came back into Illinois for the Ileana specialties. I was there again with Rick, a different dog. Dale's spying on me to tell Rick how I was doing. And I went up early. The specialties were on Friday. I didn't have Chin at the time, but I had to go up to get space because before reserve grooming, where you had to just be there and fight for space. I watched the specialty. Vicky was there, kind of got to know her. I had a little Boston Terrier puppy. We called him a teacup named George. Vicky fell in love with him. So they were cheering him on and at the groups and everything. Dale finished at bitch. Well, he won at the specialty with a dog named Matthew. He finished a bitch on Saturday, wanted to move it up on Sunday, so he asked me if I would take it back in. I did take it back in. Dale won the breed with Matthew. I went opposite over a bunch of bitch specials, which is what Dale was hoping for. A month later at Vicky's DeVelos's dog show, me and my friend Daryl Martin were set up together, and Vicky came by and talked, and Daryl, being the very blunt, forceful person she is, basically said to Vicky, "So where's your dog? What's going on with your handler?" And Vicky didn't know anything of that, so Vicky investigated it, and her handler at the time was having some personal problems and had a dog named Gent, which was the dog that Dale originally had way back when. Dale got him back from that handler because he just needed to straighten some things out in his life at that time. And after convincing Vicky that poodles wouldn't be the priority over her chin, they sent Gent to me. I placed the first weekend I had him and won several groups. Unfortunately, Gent's show life was nearing his end, and he decided to retire before we decided he should retire. He kind of quit on me.
They do. They do.
He kind of quit on me. We didn't make it to the end of the year. We didn't make it to the end of the year. And then Dale convinced Vicky to take a dog named Matthew, Touche's All Right, which is the one he had been specialing. And they sent it to me, and I specialed him for a year, and then they sent me William, and none. So that was 2017 was when I got the first. Although I actually got a chin earlier that Dale had sold to some people in Illinois named Firkin. And I did say Firkin, not the foul word. But we should have named it the other word because they had not leash broke him, and he was almost 2, and they asked me to try. And I learned very quickly that you don't get to leash break a 2-year-old chin.
There's no trying at that point.
He laid in my daycare for 3 hours with a leash on him, refusing to move while I watched from my grooming window. I never did get him to move. I tried to show him one time. The judge was Jason Hoke. He said he was a really beautiful dog. Jason said, "If you can get him to take one step, I will put you up." We could not get him to take one step. And so he never finished.
He retired too. And part of the reason we thought Matt would be such a great fit for the chin is because he had good hands with him, but he's a really good groomer. And he has because chin have several different coats. Mm-hmm. And, the bitches can be in and out of coat. And the trick is keeping them in coat throughout the year. And that takes a little bit of a knack to keep them in coat throughout the year, because a lot of the dogs out of the country, they'll let them load up with a big dead coat. They'll give them a couple of consecutive baths and then bald. So the trick with our show season is to be able to keep them in hair throughout the year. And then when they are down in coat, what products to use to try to make them look the best they can while their coat's coming in. What kind of products have you found to be successful? Because you keep Vicky's dogs looking fabulous all throughout the year. So what do you like on them? What do you do? What's your routine?
Well, I think the first part of keeping a chin, is Dale drilled this in my head, and so is everybody, is keeping them not hot, kind of like a mushroom, keeping them cold and damp. It's the heat that triggers the coat loss. So at our outdoor Illinois shows, you travel with lots of ice pads, fans. I am fortunate enough to have a vehicle now that has an air conditioner, but I do choose air-conditioned shows if I have the option. Because just one weekend out in a ring at 90-plus degrees can cause your dog to go bald, which I found out the hard way with William. Won back-to-back groups with him at a show that was supposed to be air-conditioner. It was not. It was 95 in the building. 2 weeks later, I went to the Nationals, and he was bald. So we found out the hard way that way. Others, I don't know that it's really products that do it. I think it's more what you do, keeping them cool, not bathing them in really hot water. Clean hair grows, but washing out undercoat all the time isn't, they don't have undercoat, excuse me. Washing out coat all the time isn't going to help keep them in hair. I try to let them air dry instead of using hot dryers until they're almost dry, and then finish them off to dry. Using products, Mighty had the Tri-Dog had these beautiful ears, but I had to brush them every day because they would just be wadded up and tangled at the end. And I haven't found that using bands like we do with poodles works on the chin. Their coat breaks off too easy. I tried banding a tail one time, and it made it worse because every time that he wagged his tail, the bands hit him in the head, and he spun around trying to figure out what just hit him in the head. So, but it's not like the poodles where we can band it up to keep it from tangling. So brushing is important.
So
and
after you bathe them out and stuff, you let them dry on the towels for like how long?
Each dog's different. Don't let them dry completely. And also it varies from dog to dog. Like Louie's coat's really straight and really proper texture. So he doesn't need as much drying to keep his coat straight as say Mighty did, who was a little fluffier dog. And we had to apply more heat to Mighty to get his coat to lay flatter because he was a little fluffier textured dog than Louie. And then also, the shampoos, I don't know. I can't say that I'm loyal to one shampoo. I do like Crystal White, and I brought props.
Yay.
I do like Crystal White.
That is good, yeah.
You have to watch Crystal White, because even though it's green, it will still turn your dog purple. So I dilute it. They say some people dilute it in the microwave to activate the enzymes. I was told by the company years ago, don't do that. So I dilute it in a little glass coffee mug with really hot water, and then use it on the dog.
What percentage?
I use it like on Louie. I use it on his underside every bath and make sure that any pee stains or whatever are gone. I'm careful how much I use it all over him. If I'm going to a show where there's those high density lights, I shy away from it because those can make him look purple, even though he might not look purple outside.
Right.
If I'm doing an outside show, sometimes I take advantage of that and use it on him all over and let him sit in a little bit just to get some whitening before I have to go to indoor shows. Conditioner, I've always just used Pantene products. I think all the Pantene conditioners are the same, but if you feel better buying the Straight and Sleek because you think it'll make your dog straight and sleek, or you buy the Fluffy because you think it'll make the dog look fuller, it is what it is. I'd usually just buy whatever is on sale.
Do you like, when you go to dry them out, do you like using a pin, a slicker, a bristle brush? What do you like to use?
It depends on the dog again. On the body coat where it's shorter, I'll use a slicker sometimes just because the pin brush doesn't seem to pull the water out. But on the tail, the rear furnishings, and the ears, I would never use a slicker because that's going to pull. If you have tangles at the end, it's going to pull the tangles out, and over time you'll thin out the ears. Because remember, the ears are very tiny, and most of the hair isn't actually on the ears. So, and I find that if you lose ear hair, it A, never grows back, or B, they're very old by the time it grows back. I don't find that the ear hair is something that grows back at any rate.
You get one shot at it, really.
So how much, like when grooming a chin, how much is actual technique versus DNA? Like, can you
the
help
code is
promote
DNA.
growth, or is
No?
If I have a
I
short,
think the code is
DNA. DNA.
I think the coat is DNA. Matthew's got a beautiful coat because his father, Jen, had a beautiful coat. Louie has a beautiful coat because his sire, Jen, had a beautiful coat. Louie and Mighty are half brothers, same mother, and they both have nice thick coats, so some of that's coming from the mother too. The dog I special Matthew, he never developed any rear furnishings. He never developed any ruff or ears. He just never developed it. I don't think how much conditioning.
He had a harder, shorter, more fitted coat.
Yeah, no matter what I did. And then William's coat had a little wave to it, and it grew in enough, but he was never dripping. And unlike the other males, when he blew coat, he blew it bald. You didn't get a summer coat. You got a bald coat, which that's partly genetic too. Although he was a younger dog than Mighty and Louie were when we specialed him too.
So for your maintenance, brushing, what do you use?
A pin brush.
Pin brush.
Always a pin
and do you
brush.
use a spray? Do you use
I
a
do.
sprayer?
And I bought another prop. I like this Botanic product with the avocado
Nice.
on it. It's clear. Don't get the milky one. That's too heavy. The Shih Tzu people cued me in on this. I love it. I use it at the show all the time.
Doesn't make him greasy?
No, it's not heavy, and it makes the coat moist and feel and look alive and healthy, but it doesn't weigh the coat down like say like Crown Royal or something like that would. And you can use it all. I use it at shows too. So sometimes I'll spray them on wet if I'm bathing a dog at the show, and just to let it sit on there too. I was great on Mighty because it really made his coat lay. And with Mighty, I did iron him, which I know we're not supposed to do, but I had to do with him.
Okay.
And
Gotta
that
do what you gotta do.
protect his coat when ironing so that I wasn't burning his coat off too.
How often do you wash him out at the show? How many days can you make it on a bath?
I don't always do full over baths. With Louis, I don't because he gets kind of stressed about it. So mostly I do underneath and everything. 3 days starts to get a little buildup on the coats. After 3 days, it gets hard. And some of the class puppies, I'll have to do every day because their coats just look oily and flat, just by nature of their coats. So some of the puppies I'll do more than Louis. Louis's coats, holds really well. A Mighty probably. Well, I didn't like to do Mighty at shows because after a bath, he's kind of like a Pekingese. His coat got too fluffy. You needed some oils to weigh the coat down.
I think
But I would
Tyson's
always.
black and white dog is kind of like that. The one you just finished, right? Doesn't he kind of have a big coat?
So which one?
Tyson's black and white dog.
Elon or no, the
Yeah,
other one?
The other one. The other one.
The
that
other
had
one's got a
looked
big
like
fluffy coat. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
What
Yeah.
did you find that bathing
Get
him?
this. Get this.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
I,
Okay.
I
how
find it.
often-
I find it different based on their hair. Like my tri-bitch that I have been group placing is like I bathe her every show because her hair, it almost like it gets greasy and it almost starts looking like dreadlocks type. Starts clumping like that. So it's like she
Mhm.
needs to be bathed before and blown out before every show. Otherwise, like her bath doesn't last of 2 days. But I
Well,
have a red and white
I
bitch
bathed
that's
her-
like I can bathe once a week and you won't tell if she's been bathed or not. Her hair is super silky and just lays flat and nice, and you don't have to bathe her before every show. You can bathe her right before you go out.
Well, I bathe their bellies, their ears, their furnishings, and their tail every morning.
So what's like
At a
a
show.
process on a dog to help with the pee stains? Because one of the things that I experience that a ton, I know a lot of other people with boys, like keeping that underbelly nice and white. Even if you have to use bands, like is there any certain tricks, like if you have to use belly bands to help clear up some of that pee stain?
I've not used belly bands. I'm always worried that it's going to break off the hair where the belly band wraps. I mean,
Which it
basically, it's just keeping them clean. The best procedure is prevention.
So when you're talking about the at the show bath,
Mhm.
is that like a self-rinse shampoo and a pan of water, or are we talking the hose shampoo? We're like full on bath. How hard and dirty are you doing those at the show when you're talking about
Most times, since I keep him fairly clean anyway, and I don't let him go run in the mud, and I put him on mats outside and everything. I do self rinse on the belly and the furnishings and the tail and the ears and the chest, just so that we get it straight, and then and then the hips, and then in a bucket, with a sponge, rinse them. With Louis, that works, well enough. Louis, he doesn't really pee all over himself now that his coat is getting longer. He's having more problems underneath and hitting his front legs sometimes, and he likes to pee in the wind, which we all enjoy that. But that's every morning I do that. If he's won the breed and sitting around all day for the groups, if he's been laying around, sometimes rear furnishings get kinked or whatever, and I'll re-wet him down with a sponge and dry him. But again, he's got a really good coat. It's a really good texture
That's
coat.
beautiful hair.
It's
now do you
hard to scrub.
just use when you're trying to get the hips to lay down, like Mighty was a little tumbleweed with a head. So were you using product, or were you like doing some strategic thinning out to try to get shape? How did you manage to get shape on when you're lucky enough to have a dog that has a lot of hair?
Yeah, with Mighty, I used a lot of conditioner.
So
I would
you
use
got
the
the shape through
straightens.
product, not so much cutting as you did product
No,
and blowing it out.
I would really drape his hips and his furnishings in Pantene, usually the straight, just in hopes that it actually worked. And then I would leave a little bit in there so that it would drape a little bit better. And then his ears, but his ears were so beautiful. I didn't do it as rough because I liked the fact that it stood up and
Sure.
looked like that.
So you
And
were
then
doing strategic products on certain parts of the dog to get the effect in that area.
yeah, yeah. And then when I would dry him, I would make sure that I used a hot dryer on like his hips and his furnishings where I needed it to straighten out and not be so fuzzy. And also, once again,
Right.
spraying with that a lot.
Well, when you were drying, so I know poodle people, like when we had the cockers, we would always dry the show side first, or do ears first, or pick and choose as to where you're going to go to dry. Because whenever you're drying, you're not drying just that spot. You're blowing air all over them.
Right.
So where do you want them to be dried first? Where do you want to get your biggest bang for the buck?
Start with the shortest areas.
Mm-hmm.
The body, the belly. I usually do the ears last, the ear and the chest last. Then, the back end, I do, the body, the shorter hair first and the back end. And then I usually do the ears last because the ears, you got to be really gentle with the ears because, like I said, you don't get second chances at losing ears.
No, for sure. So when you're doing trimming, like on the feet and stuff like that, you're using thinning scissors?
I don't always,
Well, tell us what you do.
but I'm good with the scissors.
Mm-hmm.
I use a clipper on the pads, usually a 30 braid or something like that, with my little Bravado clipper that I use on the poodles, and I'll use that on the back of the pads and everything, and the pads. I will use blending shears on the side if I'm doing the long front hair, which I don't do it all the time. I'll use the blendings because if they pick up the foot at the wrong time when you're coming down. But the edges, I mean, you're the one that told me make them look like little Japanese shoes, Cavalier snowshoes.
Yeah, no. Well, yeah, it is. If you can get the shape, it's like you want the natural appearance, but you don't want them to like lose the shape where they look like big muckluck feet. I mean,
Right, and I let him stand how he's gonna stand on the ground by himself, so that I can trim the long hair to look like his feet are facing forward, even if they don't, because I know our standard calls that they can turn out. Most judges, if they get a chin that stops with them looking like they face forward, they go goo-goo over that, even though the standard says,
it's an all breed appeal for sure.
Yeah. So if they toe out slightly or more than slightly, when I'm doing the feet, I let them stand like that, and then scissor them so that the pointy toes are pointing forward.
I can hear the audience right now just like oohing and ahhing of, does he really cut the Grinch feet off? So talk just through trimming in general. Like, what do you really trim up on a chin, or what do you try to shape on a chin if you're getting ready for a show? And then a follow-up question to that would be, how do you maintain the chin when you're not showing? Say you got a month between shows. Are you putting conditioner behind the ears, in the coat, and just letting it sit without even rinsing it out? Or how you maintain
No, I would never do
coat?
that. As far as scissoring, they're a fairly natural breed, so there's not a whole lot. I did way more with the first couple because my poodle instincts came out, and I thought I had to do all this stuff. I had to, neaten everything. I do a lot less with Louis than I did, say, Gent. In Gent, I did a lot more. I mean, the feet, you're not trimming the Grinch feet off. You're just neatening them up to look like Dale said, little Japanese shoes, not Grinch feet. I like to take thinning shears to the males, especially if they have a nose wrinkle, and keep that short so it doesn't poke them in the eye, first of all, and also because I think it helps. One, you want to see the eye, and if they have a larger nose wrinkle, take it down and minimize it, because I don't know that the nose wrinkle is always proper. We get them, but I don't know that technically it's the most proper thing to have. And to minimize it, take the thinning shears to pull it down. I think it also helps with eye staining and tearing, because if you don't want the hair sticking them in the face, it's bad enough they might have eyelashes doing that. The nose wrinkle is something you can easily take down. And I just use a thinning shears, and because that way I won't cut the skin. Other than that, I don't do a whole lot.
You leave the whiskers.
Only if there's a crazy one, or if one distracting.
You only take one out. You only take out a whisker if it's going into the eye.
Or just looks randomly crazy.
Well, sometimes the puppies will get that little fluff, that little troll doll fluff, a bit of puppy hair on the top there. When you go blow them out, and they kind of like got this little like cockatoo thing on top of it.
Yeah, that would irritate me, so I probably would use a thinning shears to that a little bit. And sometimes they get that shawl across the shoulders that's like a really different length than the rest of especially the young dogs. And it makes them look roachback because it's sticking up when it's not supposed to. And I may or may not trim that down a little bit to match the rest of the coat, just because it makes them look something they're not. If the hair is making them look roachback, then you need to take care of that hair so they don't look roachback.
And like if you've got color spots on the top line, the black hair is a little different texture than the white hair. So what would you use to kind of bulk up the white hair to kind of like make it look a little bit more cohesive?
I don't really use anything really. I've never really been much into moose and stuff like that, so I'm not probably the one to.
We've had mostly predominant, but William had some color on his back.
Yeah, most of mine have been fairly white dogs. I mean, with a few black spots, but nothing that was too distracting. I had one class bitch that had a smudge, but she took care of herself by deciding never to walk. She got a 5-point major and never walked again.
So are you using cornstarch or anything on the legs, or?
I'll use chalk on the feet right before we go to the group, just to make sure they look white.
Like block or powder?
Powder with a very fine bristle brush, and go up the legs a little bit just to make them look fuller and whiter. And if I do anything on the belly, like if we have some pee that probably shouldn't be there but don't have time to do something about it, I'll use some baby powder underneath, because baby powder's lighter. The chalk's really heavy. I don't want the chalk because it sticks to the coat and makes the coat sticky and
texture
coarse.
On long hair. Yeah.
So mostly if I do anything on the body, it would be with baby powder because it's lighter. I've never used cornstarch. I know some of my Maltese friends do, and I never understood, because to me it's not white. I know the old English people swear by it, but their coats
I think
also.
If you're trying to make the bone look more, it probably puts more texture in. But we're a fine bone dog anyway, so we don't really need super big fuzzy legs. Probably,
I mean, the other thing that before we go to the ring, and I do it more for the group than the breed, unless it's a really competitive breed, is again props. Lumify
for the eyes,
to take the red out and help clear out the whites and everything. I don't use it a lot because I had a pharmacist friend scare me a little bit about it and said it's a vascular, so I use it once a day. I don't do it for the breed and the group, and I choose my battle there, which one I think is more competitive.
So after you're done showing, like with the poodles, you've got to break them down and get all of the product out of the coat. What do you do with the chin as far as like before you put them back in the crate, take them home?
Put him out to let him pee and then feed him, because I don't feed him in the morning. I don't feed him in the morning. At show days, I want them motivated. So when he's done with the groups, he goes potty, and then I put him in his crate with some food and water, and usually he scarfs his food down right away. But
excellent.
I've not had to do much as far as coat wise. And the nice, with poodles, we go home, we have to bathe out the hairspray, Saturday or Monday. The chins just get to be dogs on Monday.
Right.
So then what does the upkeep look like in between shows then? Say you have a month between shows. What's the chin upkeep look like? Anything special, or?
I mean, clean hair grows, so I just bathe them. So I don't want them really dirty or slimy. And just, since I don't have to worry if their coat's really straight or not, I just basically let them air dry if their coats can handle it, and finish them off again. But I don't really care if their coat's straight or whatever for just maintenance baths. Just make sure their ears are brushed out. And then I brush ears. I would mist them and brush them depending on who, the dog. Sometimes, like Mighty was every day. Louis doesn't have to go every day. His ears don't really do that. And then I brush the tails and the furnishings too, because just running around, the ends get twisted, and so I don't want those getting all twisted up, because every time you brush through a twist, you break hair. So you think you're not, but you are.
You are. So when you when you're looking at them from the profile and you've got them all done up, and you've got some like rogue hairs growing up at the base of their tail around the anal vent, how do you decide what's going to be trimmed and what's not going to be trimmed?
I mean, I will take, like, if the hair along the back toward the tail is getting long enough, and when the tail's up over the back, it like pushes that hair up and it makes the dog look high in the rear when he's moving, I will take the thinning shears and kind of thin at the base of the tail, so when the tail goes up, it kind of parts it a little bit. Not like a Shih Tzu where they literally straight scissor a diamond.
Do the Brazilian?
Yeah, I did that on one chin, and boy, did I get chastised for it. I guess it was a live feed, and I guess there was a lot of commentary on the live feed about my dog's butthole, and
As a full moon.
I'm never on those things, and I don't like to go on those things, but I was told there was some commentary. I try to stay out of that, because I think it really makes you gun shy if you hear people saying stuff like that. I don't really go on all those things.
So chin aside, let's just talk handling for a minute. As a handler, how do you decide what dogs you want to take or how many dogs you can take? Is that kind of up to you?
You mean for a show?
Yeah, to be a handler for it. Yeah, maybe to each show. Yeah.
How many friends do I know that are going to be at that show that can help me get them in and out? That's a big one.
Valid, yeah.
Because the shows are smaller now. Everybody's dogs always end up being at the same time. It doesn't matter how much you plan. Everybody's dogs end up, because judging is all done before noon at a lot of these shows, so there's not a lot of people that are showing after lunch that can help you show at 9 o'clock. So I talk to my friends, see who's going. They ask me, if I can help them with extra ones. If I'm going to an area that I don't know people, I keep it bare minimum, because I don't know if I'll know anybody that can help me take things in the ring. It's different at taking some class chins that I can throw in a trolley if they don't win and to run Louis in, compared to poodles that have to stay on tables while I'm grooming them and them away. The chins, we can throw them in a trolley and go to the ring and pull them out as we need them, and Louis can sit on top of the trolley. But a lot of it comes down to, and also if I think there's going to be majors, because I don't always enter my class chin everywhere, because there's certain areas I just know there's not going to be, I'm not going to find points in Indiana. There's nothing left in Indiana. When I first started, we would get majors all the time in Indiana and Michigan. Now they've all retired or gone or whatever.
Regional. Yeah.
But if I go to Iowa or I go to Purina or I go down south to Texas there's usually or even Minnesota has some nice breeders up there that usually are out. Maybe if I have some class stuff, I'll throw a class chin in. And the same with toy poodles anymore. Toy poodles is kind of a dying variety up north. I know in Texas they have them, a bunch, but we don't. And if I don't have my own point, I have to talk to people and see if there's going to be points.
Wouldn't you say now the shows there is you see a lot, there's a lot more judging, a lot less dogs, because now we've got the 7 owner handler groups and owner handler, and then we've got the 4 to 6 puppy going on. It's not kind of like maybe where before you'd have like, this judge is going to sit over there. You're going to show there's 175 dogs getting judged by Maxine Beam, and she's going to do all the toys or whatever. That kind of thing. It seems like it's like you got toys going in like 4 different rings.
Well, and my owner handler friends, if we're late, they're caught up in their owner handler groups, and a lot of times they bring puppies for those 4 to 6 month things, which I'm not allowed to show out even if I bred and own it. Although I can now for exhibition purposes only, which basically means I pay entries to
walk on the match,
which I can do that for free after hours.
There you go. Right.
So
it's changed, hasn't it?
I mean, everything's busier. No one's really, And no one's really sitting around like they used to, because the owner handlers have a lot to do at shows. So my friends that are breeder owner handlers, even though I may show more dogs, they're in the ring more than me because they got all their other group things they can do. So
Well, it's literally 2 shows in a day, and then if they go ahead and if they do what the 2 shows in a day and then throw in owner handled
and I've
for
had
one
to,
of those, that could be up to that could be 3 sets of groups in one day.
and haven't you had to warn some of your owner handler friends that are actually campaigning a dog for group points that you're wearing the dog out by showing in the breed, showing in 2 groups, and then possibly showing in the owner handler best in show group 2, and all of a sudden you're in the ring 5 times on Saturday, and you wonder why the dog is tired on Sunday.
It's rough.
Well, you burned him out. At some point, I think you have to. At some point, I think you have to decide which is more important. Is the owner handler part of it more important?
You definitely should pick and choose, especially with toy dogs. Maybe with a large breed that has just like a whole lot of get up and go, they can probably do a whole lot more. But I would say for toy dogs, that's a lot. That's a lot to put those little dogs through, and especially with the last Malcolm that I showed for Vicky back, I guess that was like in 2000. I did 100 shows with him. It took me all year long, and we went almost every weekend, but they were weekends, and there was maybe like 1 or 2 circuits. Now everything is a circuit. There's like 4 days, 5 days, not uncommon.
And you used to be able to come in on Saturday, and if there was a cluster and be okay. Now, if you're not there Thursday and Friday, you're probably not placing Saturday and Sunday if they haven't seen you. In the groups.
But good luck finding a grooming spot.
Too. There's that too. And like some dogs, like Louis, he doesn't do 4 days anymore. It's in his contract.
Yeah.
He doesn't do hot shows. He doesn't do outdoor shows. He doesn't do 4-day clusters. He keeps adding amendments to his contract. So what we're doing sometimes is entering next year's or a young dog one day to give Louis a break in a 4-day cluster because it's
a lot.
I'm trying not to burn him out before the end of the year, and 4-day clusters really take it out of him. By the 4th day,
they do. Me too. By the time I'm there 3 days, I'm done.
Yeah.
That 4th day is ornamental. I mean, it's
especially if he's done any winning. Especially if he's done any winning. If he's won a couple of groups, that means he's been in the ring 3 times each day, or so he could be in the ring 6 times before the 3rd show, and it's not. He loses interest.
But I think that's a really good idea, picking and choosing and saying necessarily blanket entering. Especially the owner handlers are probably have to be strategic about that too. Is like not to enter every single thing and just run your dog into the ground, because it does take out of them, and it takes out of their hair to be blown out and ironed and sprayed up and product and then show, and then as I think that you have a better shot of a longer shelf life if you don't just like play them to death.
And a toy dog doesn't gain weight in a 4-day cluster. I mean, even if they eat well, by the 4th day, I mean, maybe the judges aren't feeling it, but that when you have a 5 or 6 pound dog, losing a pound is a lot.
A half a pound is a lot.
So
yeah, they're feeling pretty bony.
I haven't
by
seen
that
a
point.
toy dog yet of my own that can get through 4 days just fine. It's usually day 3 where we're struggling.
Well, I will say this, the toy poodles can, because usually by the 4th day, they probably finally calm down enough that they're under control. Some of the high-energy dogs, and I'm guessing min pins are probably the same way. By the 4th day, they're finally...
I think the brachycephalics, anything that's brachycephalic, and especially if they're a coated dog, it's just a lot of grooming. I mean, it's a lot of grooming for those dogs to be on there. That's when we do use the Entice, and have had good luck with that, to boost them through the weekend, to keep them eating through the weekend.
Yeah. I had to use Entice on Mighty because he was never a big body dog and he didn't like to eat, so we had to use Entice to keep him in any kind of showable weight. Louis is good; he eats on his own, so we just use a lot of Stella and Chewies to make him even want to eat more.
Yeah, build them a little bit when you have a few days during the week. You can probably build them up a little bit.
This also goes for training classes. The people that go to training class every week and drag their young puppy around for an hour are doing nothing to help them as a show dog. they're burning them out before they even get to the show ring. Going to class for, if you're going to go every week socially, maybe take a couple dogs. So one's only in there for a little bit, because you're only in the ring 10 minutes.
Sure.
To run a dog around the ring for an hour, unless it's a problem dog, once you get them leash broke, they need to find their fun at the show, not at training class.
Right. No, it's a lot. It's a lot. You need more dogs. You need more toys to play with if you want to do, massive training every week,
Well, you tried to make me a beaver handler, and one and done, thank you.
Hey, you got it done.
All right. We're going to open the door for Matt. We know you're in the middle of your work day, and you came in and you spent 45 minutes with us to, let us take some. And I know you got a wet dog that's needing to be groomed up. So if you want to take off, feel free.
And my real job, the job that pays the bills.
So any final words from you, Matt? Like any final just tips, tricks that you might have up your sleeve for the chin people out there?
The biggest thing is you just have to realize that they're all different. And the one thing I find about chin is, as soon as you think they're a great show dog, they're going to humble you. They are probably one of the more difficult breeds I've ever dealt with. And you can have a best in show winning dog one weekend, and the next weekend it puts the brakes on and says, yeah, no, I did this last weekend. And it's just finding the trigger that keeps them consistently going, whether it be chicken or whether it be a toy, or in my case with Louie, his friends, Sharon's Voda. If I can find her, Louie lights up. He would sell me in a heartbeat for Sharon's Voda. Julie Kinsey with the toy poodle and Ann Rary. He would sell me 6 times, and if I try to get behind them, and he chases them around the ring and on his down and back, when we go around, that's just what energizes him. And finding little things like that. It's not all about your technique. And you have to be able to change your technique, and you have to be able to, not all dogs are going to go on the same leash. Not all dogs are going to like the same treat.
One thing that you said a while back that was pretty insightful was somebody was trying to check expression on the table, and that is not where you're going to, and you told them, put them on the floor, put them on the floor.
I had one judge literally say to me, not enough white in the eye, and this dog had extreme amount of white. And I said, because you're holding his face, he doesn't like that. Wait till he's on the ground. I went down, and when I came back, she was on her knees watching the dog come down to her and said to me, oh my God, he does have beautiful eyes on the ground. And then she says to me, I wonder if that dog in Texas I had last week had just as much eye white. Texted Dale and said, did you show to so-and-so last week down in Texas? He had a judge at the time who had a lot of eye white. I said, well, she didn't see the eye white on the table. So,
and you won't. But
we have to educate them.
Well, it's a lot of different breeds and the little idiosyncrasies about each one.
I don't think we can do it by lecturing them. I don't think you can. You have to do it by being nice or making a joke out of it, or they'll remember it more if they laugh about it than if you yell at them about it.
A little humor goes a long way.
If you say, how dare you, all they're going to remember is you, not the dog. If you make a joke about it, then they'll probably remember, oh, that nice guy said I need to look more at the eye weight on the ground.
Sure.
Because we do the same things in poodles. They want to look at the feet on the table, and they're splatting them out like a pancake. And we say, wait till they're on the ground. Then they'll be on their feet like they're supposed to. Dogs don't like tables, especially toy breeds.
Yeah, toy breeds, you throw this tiny little dog on top of a table, and you expect them to just show everything that they are. It's like they're scared. Yeah.
And it's where they're groomed.
Yeah.
Right.
All right, man.
Other than that, also, I have been blessed by being sent very nice chin to special. Vicky, Dale, they have always sent me really nice dogs. So it's not always my talent. It's the talent of the breeders that sent me very nice chin to show. Vicky's coming up with some beautiful puppies that we've been having great fun with. So, it's my skills are only there depending on, you can't win with a bad dog, no matter what some people can, but I can't win with the bad dog. Most people can't win with the bad dog.
Not consistently. Yeah.
And you certainly can't make a bad dog famous unless, you can make them infamous, but not famous. So the breeders have to send you the good dogs, for your skills to look good. The dogs make you look good. So.
Thank you so much, Matt. We appreciate you.
Thanks for having me. I'm going to go drive my Shepherd mix now, hopefully, with 3 legs.
Put a picture on Facebook so we can see what you had to do the rest of the day.
Yeah,
All
exactly.
right. What do I do to leave you now? I don't know how to do this. I'm technical. How do I leave you?
There should just be a leave button. If there's not, just turn your phone off.
Oh,
Close
there
your
it is.
computer. There you go. Boop.
There you go.
All right. See ya. Talk to you later.
See you guys.
Bye-bye.
All right, we are at the time of the episode where we like to ask Dale your guys' questions. So if you have submitted a question, thank you. If you haven't, you can submit questions at the TacBox Podcast on Facebook through our Facebook group, or you can email the TacBoxPodcast@gmail.com, and we will answer your questions on an upcoming episode. So, Dale, we got a couple questions that came through this week. As a breeder or owner of a dog, how do you decide on a handler if you want to special a dog? Can the handler tell you no to your dog? How do you decide what handler you want to do? How do you research that and find handlers?
Well, that's a really good question. And so some breeds are kind of breed specialist type of breeds where the people that have them, like if they're poodles or something that's going to require specific grooming for that breed, then you have to find someone that is versed in that breed. Like with toy dogs, we have to find people that are kind of versed in taking care of little dogs and making their world a happy place. And that's one thing like Matt has really been good about is he's figured out how to make his dog in a happy place. So that's the right off the bat. You have to find someone that can work with your breed of dog and work, that knows how the grooming and then the next thing is you need to look and see where they're showing strategically. So if you have like a whole ton of really top placing and winning dogs right in one area and you're thinking, I'd like to show my dog as a champion, you might want to go ahead and consider like, hey, we would be a bigger fish in that smaller pond over in one region than another. That's kind of strategic where you have a better shot at being in the groups, placing in the groups, all of that while you're starting a new dog, getting some wins out of the area. So that kind of thing. As far as like, if you're putting your dog with a handler, you should feel like you're having a connection with that person. Like this person is somebody that I relate to, that I can talk to, I feel comfortable with, because traveling with your dog, showing your dog, all this is potentially can be dangerous. I mean, it's doing things, getting out there, going on the road, things like recently a top winning dog was lost in a terrible accident. Well, that was a terrible accident. And you feel, and your heart breaks for everybody involved. But when you travel with animals and you take them out and on there, that kind of thing can happen. So you want to be sure you're with someone and go, okay, do I trust this person? Do I trust their process? Do I trust their judgment? If my dog needs to be to a vet, will they have my dog at the vet at midnight? You make sure you want to make sure that this person shares your beliefs and your values and you're on the same page so that, like, God forbid something terrible did happen, you would go, it could have happened with me too, because they are that good. So you want to make sure before you leave your animal with someone, you want to make sure that's your person. That's the person that's going to be able to take care of your dog. They're going to show this dog to its breed specific advantage, and they're in an area of competition. And the one big thing is contracts, because it's involving money, a fair amount of money. So you'd come right out and say, hey, because like the other day you were finishing a dog for someone in return for them babysitting your dogs. That's a contract. But if you were just going to go ahead and say, I'm going to do this and you're going to get paid for it. Well, how much, how does that work? And kind of like just hash it all out in front, because like Matt was saying, you're going to have conflicts. Other people are sometimes going to have to show the dogs, all of this stuff you have to kind of have a good feeling for how this is going to go, because in a perfect world, they're going to go to the show it's going to be perfect and they're going to win and you're going to get lots of ribbons and pictures and it's great, you know. But that's not a perfect world now, is it? Now you have to kind of be reality based and think that you're doing right with your dog and you're having a good time with someone you like, preferably like.
Yeah, I mean, I would hope so. Yeah, I mean that if you're giving them money, hopefully you kind of like them. Otherwise they just look like a
Yeah.
utility company. Somebody that you don't want to pay the bill every month, but you have to.
Well, it's like when you choose a groomer or if you have a boarding thing like that. Do I feel like these people are capable? Do I think they're going to do the right job? All of that.
It's kind of like a vet too. Most of us have multiple vet
Absolutely.
options, and we choose the vet based on just the connection that we have and how they treat our animals. And I've seen people leave
Your
vets because it's like,
relationship.
they didn't like what I did.
Yeah. Yeah. That kind of thing. I think that's that is for now, this is a personal opinion only. Some people might disagree. I tend to try to find people that are not as dramatic. That that I like people that I want a more calm setting for my dog. That's a biggie. I want it like a nice, calm, like this is all good. These people are not distracted by other things. Their focus is on my dog that I have worked really hard to get and spent a lifetime to create. I want you to be focused on my dog.
Absolutely. Hopefully that answers the question. I guess just to follow up on that question. So I would assume this is the case, but handlers, if you approach a handler like I want you to take this dog out, and say somebody approaches Matt that has a toy dog and is like, "Oh, you're doing so good with Louie. I want you to take my dog out." Matt has I mean, he can say no. I mean, right? I mean, it's up to him really if he wants to take on a client.
All right, so so when you have when handlers book out for a show, they're going to have X number of dogs that they're kind of comfortable traveling with, that they have facilities for, they have help with, and then you're going to figure, are these dogs going to be in direct competition? So if I'm showing poodles and I want to show a Chihuahua, okay, that's cool. That my showing that Chihuahua is not going to affect showing the poodle. But if you're showing, like, say, a champion or a special, then how many specials in one particular group can you show? So if you're showing multiple toy dogs as champions, only one of them you can take into the group. So if the other ones are cool in the gang with having other people take them in the group, great. If they're just showing for ranking in the breed points or grand championship points, that's their goal. But if you're going to put a dog out to show for national ranking, then that dog needs to have his little happy tail in the group with your handler every time. And so, paying someone to show it is counterproductive if they're going to be showing like 4 and 5 other toy dogs. They're never going to get it in the group unless it's a dog of priority. So where is your priority on the food chain with that handler? So it's like, is it, you're putting the dog out to finish? Are you putting it finish championship? Are you putting it out to finish a grand championship? Are you putting it out for national ranking? These are all, having your goal up and then visiting with your handler up front so everybody knows what page we're on and how this is going to go. I think that's a reasonable expectation.
Perfect. Makes sense. Okay, so the next question comes, and I'm just going to assume it has to do with long-haired breed dogs. And the question is there a way to reduce shedding or cut the length of shed down? So I'm assuming like the time frame that a dog is blowing coat. Is there tips and tricks to reduce the shed or cut the time frame down?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So the dogs blowing coat that have like a double or a seasonal coat, that is triggered by the amount of light in nature. If we weren't going to be successful podcasters, if we were going to go ahead and run a trap line and trap furs, if anybody has a problem with trapping or furs, please write Tyson and tell him about that because he can explain to you that we're just joking. We're using as an example. But the fur are trapped in the fall because that's when they're in coat. That's when they're going to be prime. plush. The reason that they're in coat is because the hours of daylight, as the days go shorter, and it starts to get colder, they're gonna build up more and more hair. So that's why, like, for when they're making coats and the things, if they're in a prime winter coat. Oh, how can you make your show dog this a double coat? You can play with the amount of light. So, it's like you don't have to have, if they're in like blaring sunlight, and for extended lengths of time, that's going to trigger more of a shed. Your temperature. If your dog's in, if you're keeping your kennel in your dog room a consistent temperature, then that's going to minimize the amount of coat blow. Like we were talking about, Matt was saying how he took the dog there and it was an outside show and it was hot. That triggered a blow. If he was in a more median temperature, he was not going to be in that point where he's going to start losing that undercoat. And so, because the trick is keeping the undercoat in all throughout the year. So part of that is keeping them extra clean, really good nutrition. Skinny dogs tend to not have their nutrients are going to their emaciated little bodies. Fatter dogs are generally a little bit more and have a little bit better hair because, so keeping them well fed, keeping them super clean, keep minimizing your amounts of exposure to daylight, keeping your temperatures better. Those are all things that will help keep the dog coat. And then there's a genetic component. Some dogs carry better coat than others. And so if you have a coated breed, when you go to pick out your son, like, that dog has a really good coat. I'd like to have that because, when we're talking about how he's saying how nice Louis' coat is, well, Louis' dad had a really good coat and Louis' granddad had a really good coat. Those are things that just kind of didn't happen by accident. And so the better the hair is on the animals you're working with, the better the coat, the more you're going to have to work with and a larger margin of air. With flat-faced dog, when you see a dog, when the tongue is out and they're panting, just know that with every little, they're losing hair. So do with that information what you will.
So basically what Dale's saying is get yourself a dark, cool place and, just store your dog there all the time. And lock them in the freezer. That's it. Just lock the show dog in the freezer.
There you go. It's like flowers in the attic. Just shut them away. Exactly.
Again, if you have a complaint with locking your dog in the freezer, call 1-800-GET-A-PERSONALITY. All right. The last question that we have before we end this episode. How important are health checks in breeding? And to dive a little bit deeper in that, this person said say you have a sire that needs a health check, but they can't have a health check until they're 2 years old. You put out a litter before the sire hits 2, maybe he's 18 months, but you don't have the 2-year-old health check. How, now what? How important are the health checks?
Okay. So depending as to the type of health check. So I'm just going to take a wild guess and say that's an OFA rating because you get an adult OFA rating on at 24 months. But so let's say you have a really nice dog and I want to do these breedings right now and it's not 24. They can do a preliminary, not a permanent, a preliminary check. You can go ahead and health checks are important to an extent but that doesn't make or break. Because it's the information you get, you're using that information, it's not like we're going to take all these pieces of paper and we're going to have perfect dogs and we're going to have perfect puppies. Doesn't work like that. They're all imperfect. There's all going to have something that's not going to be great with somebody's going to have something, but you can go ahead and say, wow, I have this really great bitch. I want to breed her. She doesn't have a great patella. She could have a better patella. Okay. Well, when I pick the stud dog for her, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to breed her to a dog that has really good patellas. And I'm going to remember when I hold back that puppy from her that has really great patellas, just like the dad, double back on his mom who didn't have the best patellas. Just keep in mind what you're covering up, because that's what we're really doing is we are maneuvering around these issues. We don't make them go away. but we're not. I mean, that's a lovely dream. Basically, what we're doing is we're masking them. So we're masking this, so we're not don't want to double in the same faults. We're going to try and breed away from them to minimize their occurrence. And I don't mind. I am not offended by knowing what flaws my dogs have. I find it to be helpful. And so when people say, oh, what about breeding dog? Oh, well, okay, you can breed my dog. You know, he could have a better bite, or he could have this, or he could that, or he could such and such. It's hard, I mean, I'll just tell you, I mean, the dogs, he's not perfect. These are the areas that don't send a female that has these things wrong with it, because you're going to be unhappy with the puppies. She's going to have her faults. Try to find complementary faults. And so we're not doubling. But like for like the X-ray on that, if the stud dog's parents have X-rays, that's cool. They could maybe run a preliminary X-ray on the juvenile stud. That's cool. There's all sorts of stuff you can be able to work at this. There's not hard and fast rules. Use your common sense, and kind of go, I mean, if I think this dog is really great and I don't have an OFA number on it yet, I'll go get a preliminary on it. Go, hey, there you go. I mean, because you can turn around and say that, I think I read somewhere that dogs that passed a preliminary at 9 months to a year or whatever, a huge percentage of them also passed as adults. So that's kind of telling you, if you're good at this point, you're probably okay to go forward. And you can tell people like, hey, I'm using a younger dog. I went ahead, I did a preliminary. His parents have this. This is what I've done. I'm going to use this because this is now today, and I want to do this before I'm 100 and die. And, moving forward. So, using your health checks, using all of those tools to get the best dogs you can. And also a little bit of it is kind of a cover your ass type of situation, because doesn't mean your puppies are all going to be perfect. But if you say, I checked my adult dogs, doesn't mean these aren't going to get this, but I did my part. My part of the chain, I did the best I could. And that's really, a lot of the breeders use those as to kind of like to protect where they're at on that. So, use your stuff, use your common sense.
I mean, that's kind of part of it. I mean, if we're talking OFA, it's like you can go get the test done before the dog's 2 years old. You just don't get a
Sure.
number unless they're 24
Sure.
months old. It's like you can still go run the same test. You can get the piece of paper that says clear and the age of the dog.
Absolutely.
You're not going to get the OFA number. So a lot of people tend to choose not to do it because they don't want to pay for a test where they don't get the number, but you can.
Yeah. But if you have a bunch of puppies you're going to sell, you might want that.
Yeah.
You might
All
want
right.
to have that.
That wraps up the questions. So with that, I'm going to go throw my dogs in the dark freezer and protect their coat.
Hey, and we had a great question that we're going to do an episode on taking pictures. And
Taking pictures. Oh my gosh, it's super
It's
important.
bigger than we can fit in this. So this is for you, Claudette. We're going to do it. We're going to do one on just taking pictures. And we might use some of the pictures that you sent us that Kathy shared with you, just as kind of a, don't do this.
And we might do it next week, or it might not be next week. We'll see what next week's episode holds.
We can
I don't know
see.
yet.
Yeah, we can see. We could win the lottery and be out and blow this popsicle stand.
Yeah. I mean, you just never know. I mean,
you don't know.
We got puppies coming this weekend, so we got exciting times happening.
Big times.
All right. Thanks for joining this episode of the TacBox Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Leave a comment. Subscribe on your podcast network if YouTube's not your thing and you like to listen to podcasts. Did you know you can listen to podcasts on YouTube too? So it was like you can go to YouTube and do it. Yeah. You don't need Spotify and all the things. You can just go straight to YouTube. But anyway,
straight on there, direct.
Yeah, we appreciate it. Be a part of our group and our Facebook page, because there's Dale likes to make funny pictures, and so we put those on there. Like making fun of the world news stuff like Cracker Barrel and.
There you go.
I heard
Everyone's
Taylor
talking about
Swift
the
got
TacBox.
engaged today, so maybe there's going to be a Taylor Swift meme coming soon. I don't know. You never know.
He breaks up with her, and she's going to do like 12 albums on him, not just a
Oh my
song.
gosh. Yeah. It's nuts. So, all right. Thanks for joining us, everybody. We'll talk to you next week. Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.